Based on Yangsheng base, Xiao Honglian sat in front of her desk, chin in hand, her expression grave. Zhuge Qingting stood silently beside her, his face also serious. The recent zombie investigation team they had dispatched had all perished. Xiao Honglian placed a communication device on the table, playing the final video transmission through it. She saw a horrifying number of zombies hiding deep in the subway tunnels, along with large rat-like creatures. What worried her the most, however, were the enormous and grotesque armored zombies whose combat prowess rivaled mutants. Zhuge Qingting, deeply concerned, said, "I never expected such monsters to exist underground. If these creatures were to flood out, even with all our weapons, we couldn't stop them." Zhuge Qingting suggested, "Should we consider moving underground permanently?" This proposal meant abandoning everything on the surface, including the massive oil refinery. Xiao Honglian frowned and said firmly, "That's not possible. Losing the refinery means losing our basic livelihood. No matter the cost, we must protect the oil refinery." Zhuge Qingting continued, "But if these creatures launch a full-scale attack, do we have the capability to resist them?" A ruthless determination flickered in Xiao Honglian's eyes. "Then we'll pour crude oil stored in the warehouse around the refinery. As soon as the zombies arrive, we'll ignite it and burn them all." This decision was undoubtedly a huge risk but also a necessary sacrifice. As long as they protected the refinery, the remaining crude oil would sustain them for a long time. Zhuge Qingting looked grim at this method. Nevertheless, they had no better defense strategy at present. Still not ready to completely abandon everything on the surface and seek refuge underground, Zhuge Qingting suggested, "If so, we should send soldiers underground first. That way, if anything happens, at least we'll have support down there." Xiao Honglian sighed deeply and leaned back in her chair. "Go ahead then. Let's do it." The scene shifts to Jang Yi's refuge area. When Jang Yi and his team return to their hiding place, Zhou Ke and others come to greet them. Seeing the lack of enthusiasm on Jang Yi's and his team's faces, the women immediately realized that this mission did not go as planned. Zhou Ke asked anxiously, "What's happened? Did you encounter trouble out there?" Jang Yi maintained a gentle smile. "We faced some minor issues, but nothing too serious. Fighting outside is our duty. I don't want to pressure the women back home, whether it's Zhou Ke or Yang Xia, they're logistics personnel and have completed their tasks. Combat matters are left for me and my team to handle." Returning home, Jang Yi preferred not to burden himself with negative thoughts. Family was now their most important concern. Lu Karen nudged Yang Xinxin forward, immediately sensing the unusual atmosphere. Despite Zhang Yi's calm demeanor, his eyes reflected seriousness. Yang Xinxin smiled and approached Zhang Yi. "Boss, how did the mission go?" Although aware there might have been issues, Yang Xinxin still wanted to know the situation to offer assistance. Zhang Yi lifted his head, smiled, and gestured for Yang Xinxin and Lu Karen to come closer. "I have an important matter to discuss with you both." Yang Xinxin and Lu Karen exchanged surprised glances. It was rare for Zhang Yi to rely on them. Yang Xinxin smiled and said, "Boss, feel free to ask whatever you need." Zhang Yi spoke earnestly, "Here's the thing. I have an idea and I need your help." He explained further, "I need a method to quickly freeze a large amount of seawater. It needs to be a substantial volume. Do you have any ideas?" Zhang Yi intended to pour seawater into the subway tunnels. The goal was to prevent zombies from escaping through the tunnels. The best approach would be to first gather the seawater into a psychic space, then find a way to freeze it rapidly. "When I pour the seawater into the tunnels," Zhang Yi continued, "it will freeze, turning the entire tunnel system into a massive block of ice. This will freeze all the zombies and large rats inside. Thus, only the armored zombies and the zombie king would possibly escape, while ordinary zombies would be unable to." Lu Karen pondered for a moment before asking, "Is there a way? We could prepare some chemicals to rapidly freeze the seawater. But boss, how much seawater do you need?" Zhang Yi responded, "A tremendous amount, extremely large. I need to freeze the entire 20-kilometer-long subway tunnel." Lu Karen pondered for a moment before replying, "Actually, this isn't too difficult to execute. With sufficient preparation time, it'll be even easier." Upon receiving Lu Karen's affirmative response, Zhang Yi's eyes immediately lit up. "If we can pull this off, it'll be fantastic. In terms of timing, we're not in a rush. Even though we've witnessed how formidable the zombie horde is, we don't need to eliminate them all immediately. We just need to prevent them from fully expanding and posing a threat to our hideout before they grow stronger." "That's good enough," Lu Karen breathed a sigh of relief. So, we just need a few simple chemicals. In fact, Lu Karen continued, there's a straightforward method to rapidly freeze seawater, by precipitating and separating salt from the water. We just need a few basic chemicals. To accelerate the crystallization of seawater, Lu Karen suggested, we'll prepare a large quantity of freezing agents. The materials we previously sourced from the chemical plant but haven't used will be very useful. In this case, for Lu Karen, this is just a small, insignificant task. From a chemical perspective, freezing seawater isn't difficult, it's just a common physical phenomenon. Jang Yi clapped his hands in delight. Excellent. Let's start preparing immediately. We don't need to wait any longer. This afternoon, we'll take action. Let's go gather the seawater together. Without hesitation, Jang Yi urged everyone. Time waits for no one. The sooner we resolve these issues, the better. As Jang Yi and the others felt reassured after a long journey, they finally reached the coastline. The vehicle halted at what used to be a sandy beach. Everyone got out and looked ahead, where the vast expanse of pristine white ice stretched out, leaving them lost in thought. If not for the world becoming post-apocalyptic, Yang Yu couldn't help but admire, they might have even wanted to take some beautiful photos here. Uncle Vu also expressed his surprise. Jang Yi reminded everyone, now's not the time for sightseeing. We need to drive to another area to find a water source. Everyone got back into the vehicle and continued their journey along the coastal border. After more than an hour of driving, they had traveled over 200 kilometers on the ice, a feat possible only with high-end snowmobiles. If they had used the improved vehicles from Yangsheng Base, they might have had to stop midway. Finally, at the end of the sea and on the horizon, they spotted water bubbles. Su Chunlei enthusiastically pointed ahead and shouted, "Boss, water! We see water!" Upon seeing the water, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Jang Yi instructed everyone, "Quick, let's get there." In this vast expanse of sea, his underlying sense of worry grew deeper. In such circumstances, unforeseen events could occur. Despite being the strongest mutant in the city now, if something happened out here in the open ocean, escape would be extremely difficult. They drove close to the edge of the final ice sheet. Ahead of them lay the deep blue sea. Even at temperatures well below freezing, freezing the deep sea was impossible due to its high salt content. Taking a deep breath, Jang Yi cautiously approached the water. He then opened his psychic space, where he had prepared a large area to collect seawater. Jang Yi shouted loudly, two enormous space doors appeared on the water's surface, beginning to suck in vast amounts of seawater like water pumps. They needed an immense quantity of seawater, at least tens of millions of cubic meters. Continuously extracting seawater at the ocean border, this process became somewhat tedious. Jang Yi decided to sit by the shore with everyone, gazing out at the ocean. Uncle Vu sighed wistfully, saying, "If only I had brought a fishing rod here earlier. Fishing here would have been a wonderful experience." Not just Uncle Vu, even Jang Yi felt tempted to fish here, enjoying the beauty of nature. Jang Yi chuckled and proposed, "Your words gave me an idea. How about we make a fish pond back at the base and raise some seafood? What do you think?" During the seawater collection process, they inadvertently caught some marine fish. These fish could then be kept and raised in the fish pond, primarily for recreational fishing rather than consumption. Excited by the idea, Su Chunlei suggested, "Boss, why don't we consider building a beach resort here? Maybe by then, Zhaoyu Base might be destroyed by the zombie group. We could then occupy their headquarters, take over their boats, and even venture out further." However, Jang Yi replied, "But for now, we need to first address the current issues. The boats from Zhaoyu Base are something we also desire." With this thought in mind, Jang Yi envisioned expanding further. Considering future scenarios where rising temperatures might melt the ice, causing potential flooding in the city, he certainly needed a large, sturdy boat capable of withstanding rough seas. As they discussed and laughed, the group then boarded the vehicle and departed. "Let's go, the preparation phase is almost complete." Unbeknownst to them, right where they had stopped, under the layer of ice, a large dark shadow was slowly emerging. When Jang Yi and his team returned to their hideout, it was already very late. However, Jang Yi wasted no time and didn't even stop for dinner. He immediately sought out Lu Karen. "We've finished collecting the seawater. Have you completed preparing your materials?" Jang Yi asked. Lu Karen nodded. "The materials aren't anything special. They are ready." She then showed Jang Yi hundreds of plastic containers in her office. "These are settling agents. When released into the seawater, they will help quickly separate salt, allowing the water to freeze rapidly. The most important task is to remove a large amount of salt from the water. Only when the salt content is low can the water freeze quickly at low temperatures. She added, during the operation, we can also supply additional freezing agents to expedite the freezing process. Lu Karen further explained, it will take at least 2 days to prepare everything properly. Jang Yi replied, very well, we'll wait for those 2 days.